and welcome to Resolutions for Recovery. This show is dedicated to the education and empowerment of all people struggling with substance use disorder, including and especially their families. It's a tough time of the year for an awful lot of people. Myself, having lost my son 5 years ago, it's just a constant reminder of another holiday without that loved one sitting at the chair and enjoying family festivities. So we all need to be mindful of what is going on in the world and celebrate people in recovery, and certainly be cognizant of families that are actively struggling and what that holiday looks like and what our communities look like. And so it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce Jennifer Patel and Kara. Say your last name.
Rosancy.
Yeah, okay. I didn't want to screw it up. And in response, really, to the epidemic, you guys formed RIP-LB for Long Beach, New York, which is one of the great seaside towns here on Long Island. So I grew up in Oceanside, so spent many a time in Long Beach, sometimes probably not doing the right thing in my younger days, but that's what that town really is and was all about, because I think the landscape of Long Island has shifted, right?
Well, people do know Long Beach as a big party town,
yes.
And something interesting that I've learned in doing this work is that often when a place is a big party town, there's also the other side of that, which is it's a great recovery, great place for recovery too. And so there are people with great recovery there as well, which is just an interesting thing.
Which is a really interesting thing, because our good friend Kim.
Yes.
So when we talk about the Hamptons, come party in the Hamptons, I don't think that they have the recovery part of that out there.
Interesting.
Yet.
Yeah.
So we'll say yet.
Yeah.
Right? But Long Beach, being very mindful, probably, I'm going to say this and get your thoughts on it. Long Beach is more of a year-round town also.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The East End, not so much.
I would say all of it. Long Beach, I mean, there's a huge population in Long Beach.
No, not the East End of Long Beach, the East End of Long Island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you know what I mean?
Right, it's not just,
I think
not that it's vacant once the summer ends.
Right,
Oh,
and then it's just the locals that are there. I think that Long Beach has a huge population.
Oh, yeah.
That's there year-round.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, so talk to me. So you started 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was February 2014. We had unfortunately, we kept hearing about people who were dying to heroin overdoses, and we would hear about it. It felt like every other weekend, every weekend, and so every time, Kara and I, my sister, our friends, we would just say, somebody has to do something. This is outrageous. And then one day I was driving out to my then boyfriend, now husband's place, he lived in Jersey at the time. And it just hit me that I need to do something. And so I went online, and I wasn't a big Facebook person at the time.
I love that.
Ironically, because now I'm so into social media. But, I made a Facebook page at the suggestion of somebody, and I just threw it out there. And I said, hey, if anybody wants to come together as a community and see how we can help, because obviously, there's definitely things in place and helpful resources, but there's still a void that, there's a need that's not being met since this is happening so often. And so I thought it would be, maybe 5 people, we would meet up at Starbucks and talk about how we could help as a community. But literally overnight, it went from zero, the page starting at 0 to 1,500 people. I mean, I think I made it at 9 p.m. and then the next morning at 9 a.m. I saw that it was 1,500 people, and I was like, oh my gosh, my phone rang. It was
as
Kara.
soon as, it's sort of like the call to action. I was waiting for it, because you forget, it wasn't in the national discourse yet of the opioid epidemic. Now it seems everyone's talking about it, which is great. But at the time, it felt more like we were all whispering, and it was this tragedy happens. I don't feel like I can do anything. And then Jen put that out there, and I was like, me, I want to help you.
Kara called me. She said, I want to be your right-hand man. And I was like, perfect, because we've been best friends since 8th grade.
Her left-handed right-hand man.
My left-handed right-hand man. Yeah. So, and then from there, we were like, okay, let's meet up. I think it was Jesse or Jennifer Carbajal.
Jennifer, yeah.
Yeah, Carbajal, who arranged having a meeting at there was a church in Point Lookout that donated space, and we had a meeting, and I think at the first meeting was like 200 people, which was amazing.
And it was a very cathartic experience because a lot of those people had been more directly impacted by the losses that we were seeing. So there were a lot of tears shed, and but it was
people had to get their feelings out.
It was amazing to see everyone turn out.
And then we were able to organize into 3 focus groups, and we decided our focus groups would be addiction, mental health, because those are so intertwined.
So intertwined. And I'm so glad that you bring that forward, because
absolutely.
people struggling with mental illness use substances to make themselves feel better somehow.
Sometimes, sometimes that's how people cope. And also in Long Beach, unfortunately, there is somewhat of a trend or epidemic of suicide. And so that was another thing that we were hearing about.
Which is...
I don't understand it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why either. But I think that's a nationwide kind of, you know, people are struggling with what do I, you know, so overwhelmed with life.
Yeah. We also, I mean, 2014, we were coming off of Sandy and people were still struggling. And I think that also contributed a lot to what we were seeing, because people still weren't in their homes, or they'd been completely wiped out, and they felt really alone and isolated. So for people who are not on Long Island that are watching this, when Superstorm Sandy hit, Long Beach was
very hard hit,
very devastated,
demolished,
yes,
quite literally. The bay and the ocean kind of came together in too many places.
Right.
And you had how many feet of sand really in the roads?
Oh gosh,
the whole boardwalk was wiped out. I mean, I watched, unfortunately, houses burnt down in the East End. It was just a really tragic.
So that's why we wanted to also address, not only addiction, but also mental health, because those are two, so closely related, but also because this was something people were struggling with as well. And then our third focus group was something that we call Live Well, which is the idea that the absence of disease does not equal health. So even if all the drugs and alcohol were magically to be wiped out off the face of the earth tomorrow, people would still have the void that they're trying to fill.
Yes.
And so they would fill it with something, whether that was food or relationships or whatever it is, people, and
absolutely, gambling.
Yes.
Some other vice.
Right. So we wanted to address that also and say, like, okay, let's contribute positive things to the community. So Run LB with Rip LB was something that Lauren Sullivan had started, and it was running the boardwalk. And just doing positive things that like add to your life, because we do think that like you have to proactively make an effort to...
Well, I think there are a lot of people that are not isolated, but isolated for themselves, that they don't have a huge community of friends. So when you put something out there like Run LB, well, gee, I could go and meet people and just run. And maybe I'll make a friend.
And
you don't know the impact that one person will have on just that one person that may be thinking, I have nothing to live for, but now I found something.
Kara and I were just talking about that, because it is such a community-based organization that we started, and we realized that like so many people were struggling, and they were struggling alone, and like everybody struggles with something. So we felt that it would be great if people could come together and just be able to help each other. And like you said, you never know what that one action might be, like the kindest thing that somebody had done for them all week, and it could be like as
all
easy
week in their lives.
But you just don't know.
That was what was really empowering about starting this, is that it feels so easy to be like, there's nothing I can do, there's so many problems out there, and to think you don't have to do major actions. Like anybody can be kind or meet up with somebody, or we had happy hour yoga because someone was a yoga instructor and contributed her, her time. And the fact that you can do one small thing and make the place a little bit better, it won't solve everything right away, but it's
you can get really overwhelmed if you look at problems globally. Because can we change? No, but can we start in our own community and have it go outward?
It's so funny to say that, because one of our initial mottos was think globally, act locally. I think we got that from somebody.
It was think big, start here.
Oh, I think globally, act locally was a different marketing campaign I heard of somewhere. No, think big, start here. Thank you. So exactly that idea that like when you look at it globally, it can be so overwhelming.
It's so overwhelming.
If you let somebody have the parking space you were going after, like that's something you could do right here and now that helps someone and makes their day a little easier.
Exactly, and instead of cursing out someone that called your house, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, but no thank you, instead of screaming.
Right?
No,
that's great. Absolutely.
Or, are you okay today?
That's another great one, is like making it okay to have that conversation. What Kara said before is true. Like, it wasn't an open conversation, and now it seems to be that like awareness has been raised, and that's amazing.
And what I see too is so many people stay in their lanes or in their their little silos. So if you see something, if you see someone's family member or loved one going down a path that you know, okay, if I say something, they may get angry at me. But once it's said, the seed is planted. You can't unsay what you've said. So that works if you speak kind words or you speak negative words.
Yeah.
But if you say, you know, I'm seeing behavior from your, whoever that is, in your family or relationship, I think that there's a problem. They can curse you out and do all of that, but can you live with yourself without saying someone to bring attention?
Definitely.
So I think that's what we miss out on. You know, people in communities or educators or, you know, community members that see children or, you know, young adults kind of spiraling, and instead of saying something, just say, oh, I don't really want to get involved with that.
And I think it also just depends on the way you say it. I have a friend who always says, you can say anything as long as you say it with kindness, honesty, and integrity.
Yes.
And that's something that we took and we use in RIP LB, you know, because these are tough things to talk about. It makes sense that somebody would be afraid to approach the subject.
Well, and then you also have today, especially you're talking about there's an isolation and a lack of community, and part of that social media, as great as a tool as it is, you get this pressure because you're just seeing the highlight reel of, you know, everyone's having such a fun time, everyone's life is perfect, and you think, well, I can't admit,
life sucks.
Yeah, I can't admit that, you know, I'm struggling or my child is having an issue, and it's once you start opening that up and saying, like, everyone struggles with something, I don't care who you are, there are different levels of it, everyone's got something they're dealing with, and so you should feel okay to talk about that with each other, and there's no shame in it.
It's the idea that it's okay to not be okay sometimes.
It's okay to not be okay. I think that's what, especially our youth today, it's never okay for them not to be okay. Life isn't fair, and it's not if it's going to knock you down. It's when it's going to knock you down, and it's okay to sit on the floor for a little while.
Yeah,
it's okay to sit on the floor.
Yeah,
and say, all right, you know what? I'm not ready to get back up yet. I'll do that in the morning.
No, I'm a big believer in that. That like you
but
have
I'm
to,
safe.
You have to make space for your negative emotions, and you can't stay there too long. But if you, when you start denying them is when you get into more trouble than if you acknowledge it and say, okay, I feel terrible today and I need a minute to, like, you know, sit in this and be sad or be upset, and then I can figure out the next step I can do.
Kara actually wrote a great article about that that's up on the blog, and it talks exactly about that. If you're not happy all the time, you're doing it right. That's what the title was. And it was just like a great point.
It is the point. You're not going to be happy. That's exhausting to pretend that you're happy 100% of the time. It's a lot easier to say, I'm okay. You know, I'm okay. You know, most people don't really want to know how you're feeling. That's the unfortunate truth. But it's okay to be quiet and be, you know, introspective, right?
Yeah,
is that a
absolutely.
word?
Yeah, it's definitely a word. It's a good one too.
But that's okay. But I think we need to teach people of all ages that it's okay.
Absolutely. And to have a safe space to be able to do that is so important.
So with RIP LB, can if I'm sitting at home right now and I live, say, in Point Lookout or Lido Beach, can I email someone and just say, I'd love to connect with somebody from your organization?
Absolutely. Okay. So we recently launched our first ever website. We were
very excited.
Yeah, we were.
Because you are guys. So your generation is much different than being hands-on, having a physical space, having all of that. You're good with texting. You're good with, and that's okay. Because I agree with all of that. We need to meet people where they are, not where you think they need to be.
Absolutely. Right. And so we started out, you know, almost 4 years ago as very like boots on the ground, as Anthony Rizzuto would say, kind of movement, doing lots of in-person stuff, being at the farmers market every weekend, having a meeting in Long Beach every other Saturday. And now we're shifting to become more of a digital movement, because that's like exactly what you said, meeting people where they are. A lot of people are online. A lot of people who are struggling may not want to show up to a face-to-face meeting and say, hey, I'm having trouble with this. So we want them to be able to get all the resources that we can connect them to very easily, like very accessible, and from the comfort of their own home. So it was time for us to launch the website.
There's still a huge shame and stigma.
Absolutely.
With substance use disorder and with mental illness.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So people are not really willing to come forward. So again, doing all the public forums and there's 15 people there, and you've worked so hard to put these things together.
And there's still absolutely value in that.
There's absolute value because there only needs to be one person there that really receives the help that they need to get.
Absolutely.
But that's why, you know, doing this show, I like to educate people because I can sit at home and I know that I'm not alone. And where can I go for help?
Absolutely.
Who can I reach out to?
And that's sort of what we're trying to build. So we used to do workshops in person, and they were great, and the people who came really got a lot from them. But not everyone, when you're meeting people where you know they're at, not everyone's comfortable showing up to say, "I want to be at a workshop about codependency," and you know, and that's completely okay and understandable. So what we're trying to build now is not only having these blogs and constant content, but kind of these, you know, here are resources in what we call like the frequently asked questions section. So we've got one about suicide. We're working on one about addiction, and just, you know, if anyone who's going to turn on their computer and say like, I'm worried about someone that I know, what are signs to look for? Like any question that you could think of, we're trying to either put it up there now, or you could send it to us, and we don't know the answer, but we can try to get the answer from an expert.
And we're not professionals in this field.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And
I know exactly what you mean.
We defer to the professionals.
Absolutely.
We have professionals who answer these FAQs. So Kara comes up with the questions, which are fantastic because they're questions that a layperson would have, you know?
Yes.
And so they're...
And you want them answered
in a way a
layperson can understand.
Absolutely. And so we have someone from the Long Island Crisis Center who did the responses for the suicide FAQ. Anthony Rizzuto is working on the addiction FAQ, and we're also going to be working on a prevention one with Kim Laube for parents.
Beautiful.
You know,
and Teresa Busey is the one who did it from LICC.
Yes, thank you. And so that way people can log on and just say, like, you know, get a question answered anonymously. And then if there's questions that aren't up there yet, to your point, people can just, there's a contact page, they can just contact us. You know, if they're worried about being anonymous, that's not shared with anyone. It's only Kara and I who see it. And also you could, you know,
you can make
use
a fake
any
email address.
Use a fake email address, you know?
Absolutely.
But they could just shoot us a question and we'll work on posting something about it. So
exactly. Or you can write back. Please call these numbers.
Oh, absolutely.
And we have all the numbers.
Right.
Sure.
But there are no stupid questions, and there's nothing outrageous.
The only stupid question is the one that's never asked.
Yes, that's a great one.
That's really good.
But you know, it's that simple as to say that. So any parent, if a parent has a feeling that something's going on, it's already going on, and it's probably much further down the road than you care to ever even admit. So there's not a time to be shy or, you know, coy or, oh, I'm not going to ask that because I don't want to appear stupid. You can't appear stupid.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we welcome
You just don't want to show up late.
Yeah, we welcome any questions like that.
No judgment, no, you know.
No judgment. How about doing something with bullying, too?
That's a really interesting point. I think that, so Kara and I have like a vision, or a lot of visions for the future of what Rip LB can turn into. And we do want to have a teen section eventually, you know, because that's something like some of our friends have kids who are like entering middle school, you know, even high school. And, you know, there's so much going on in their lives, the pressure, bullying, all that kind of stuff. We want to be able to...
Anxiety.
My gosh, anxiety, yeah.
Because, so from working with kids, and to listen to them, what their day looks like, and then to have their parents say, why aren't you having fun? This is the best time of your lives.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And they're like,
it's so painful just to even...
Are you kidding me? If this is the best time, then I'm screwed.
Yeah. And
because you're not meeting your child where they are. Because to them, it is very overwhelming with what's going on in their lives. So I would love to see, because we never know who their go-to person could be.
That's true.
And they're not going to always go to their parents, because it's
their
just...
Their parents are usually, and this is from kids, so it's very interesting over the past 5 years to watch this change. Their parents are still their number one go-to person, but when you ask them, they'll say, you know, my mom and dad are always on their phone.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Different, right?
Yeah, very different than what you would expect them to say.
What you would expect them to say, or they minimize my problem.
Yeah.
So, oh, you don't know what stress is.
Yeah.
Well, they're telling you that they're under stress. It's not your job to judge their stress.
Right.
It's your job to help them cope with their stress.
That's a great
point.
point.
And this is no criticism or judgment of parents, because we all, you know, you have to remember that they're 12 or 14, and they're not thinking with an adult brain.
Oh yeah,
they're thinking with their brain.
Yeah.
That encompasses ever so much, but they're overwhelmed with what they have.
Absolutely.
So if we can get them other go-to people to go to, and empower them with communication skills to use on their parents or with their parents.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then we can change family dynamics, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think before we would go into anything in that realm, what we've always tried to do since Rip LV started was we have this little process of educate, execute, assess, because we don't want to jump into something and try to recreate the wheel or step on other people's
who know it
toes.
much better.
Because there's people who study this for years, you know.
Kim Lappy.
That's exactly who I'm thinking of.
Absolutely.
So we definitely try to educate ourselves first, because also we don't want to unintentionally do more harm than good.
Absolutely.
By doing something that's not, you know, there are, like I said, there are great resources out there, and we try to partner with them and collaborate as opposed to do our own thing. You know?
Yeah, there's no reason for anybody to do their own thing.
Right.
You just want to bring all those resources that are out there to your community.
Exactly.
And they don't have to be in your own community.
Right. It's just, here's what's available to you, you
right.
know, because there's such great events going on. Like we said, those events that are having, you know, 15 people, if we can get 20 more people there just by promoting it, like that's something we love to do. So
absolutely.
Yeah, we love working with other groups who are doing great things. I mean, as you know, because you're one of those people. So yeah.
No, it's amazing. So, because I know that I've asked, coming forward now with our family peer advocates, who do I go to? Because you know people in your community that we could identify to be a resource for your community.
Absolutely.
And get them some training to work with parents and families, not with the affected person, with the rest of their peeps.
Right. That's such a great thing.
Yeah, because people that struggle with mental illness and or substance use disorder have a lot of resources that are available to them. Unfortunately, they don't always want to seek that help.
Or sometimes they just don't know, you know? Sometimes they don't.
Sometimes they're just not ready.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're in a kind of a lucky position of being able to see all of that, right?
Yes.
But some people, if they're in their tunnel of whatever's going on in their lives, they might not know. It might not be easily accessible to them. And so that's why we, you know, for many reasons. And so that's why for us also starting the website was a really big deal, because we wanted to be able to speak in a way that people could read it easily, you know? Like there's not necessarily, there's no like jargon or something that somebody wouldn't be able to understand.
Right,
because
exactly.
It's hard enough to overcome a problem to the point that you're reaching out to get help, but we don't need to make it any harder. So that's why we wanted our website to be super accessible and
to feature voices of people who have gotten to certain levels of, you know, whether it's their recovery or building their life after.
Or sometimes just general positive life stuff. You know, there's people on our blog who have talked about their recovery journey, and then there's also people who are not in recovery that don't have an substance use disorder, but that are just doing really positive things in their lives and are sharing about it, because I think that also helps.
It's relatable.
It's relatable. They're people from the community, and they're doing. You know, it's just a nice like kind of beacon of light to be like, oh wow, there's great things going on.
I think that people today are looking for positive things to do.
Absolutely.
You know, so if we can bring positive things, and you know, everybody's searching for their people.
Right. That's so true.
Sometimes, you know, if I know, the running club or a hiking club or whatever it is that you're interested in, to know that there's a group in your community that I could go and meet like-minded people that I'm probably going to become friends with, because we'll have the same interests.
Absolutely.
That's all a good thing.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting at home.
Yeah. Or if there's not something that you're interested in, you can start one, you know?
Absolutely.
Kara and I at one point had a document that we shared with the group that was like, how to start something. As like silly as that might sound, but it was like, do you want to see something happen in your community? Here's like a 5-step process of like how to make it happen, you know? And that was something we circulated, and people took it and ran with it.
And they started putting on workshops.
Putting on different workshops in the library, because there are so many opportunities of like, if you want to do something, you can make it happen.
You can, and you should make it happen.
Yeah.
That's the part that people take away from themselves. I could never do this.
That's right.
I don't know how to do this. But ask a few questions, and somebody else is going to help you with it.
Yeah, and getting help, exactly. Like, you don't have to do it alone. That's the thing.
Never have to do it alone.
Yeah. So
and again, recreating that wheel.
Right.
It's probably someone's done something similar to that you could.
Or somebody else wants to do it and they'll partner with you.
Yeah, and just follow the steps, you know, and then it makes it fun too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes it fun to do things.
Definitely.
So I know that, you know, Anthony and I did something in your community.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing.
That's the part that I love, is that somebody can at least say, not in this alone, and wow, what a burden off my shoulders.
Yes.
To say this out loud and know that I'm not alone.
Yeah, the workshop you and Anthony did was packed and got rave reviews because of that exact thing. It was like when people can see that they're not alone, it's like you said, it's a huge burden off their shoulders. They know that there's this, Debbie Turkle-Nardozzi from RIP-LB she's from RIP-LB. She's from a lot of different organizations.
She's from a lot of different organizations.
But we know her through RIP-LB, and she would say there is hope and there is help. And that's just, you know, we just want to get that message out there. There is help and there is hope, and it's accessible to you. So yeah.
So I love that, again, it's digital, because people, especially when I think a community sees younger people putting this together, they're gonna be like, that's my people. I don't want to listen to, you know, old people.
Yeah, sometimes it takes what it takes. Some people connect to different people.
You know, it's just, you're a positive influence on your community, you know, and you are that community now. You know, there's a season for everybody that comes through. So your friends having children now and raising children, you are the community, because that's what makes a community thrive.
Right. And there are some really great community organizations in Long Beach. Long Beach Co-ed is one of them, Project 11561. There's these community organizations that are doing great things. So it's like, I guess it goes back to what we were saying before, that's like the two sides of the same coin. When it's a party town, but there's also great recovery. There's crazy things happening, but there's also really wonderful people who want to put good out there. So yeah, it's a lot of good stuff.
We're going to be right back after this message with these two beautiful little...
I feel so good here. You're going to see me feel better.
My age is 18 years old, and my name is Evan.
My name is Sean, and I'm 19 years old.
My name is Justin, I'm 16.
My name is Angelica, I'm 18 years old.
Marijuana, and I was 13 years old.
Marijuana, and my age was 13.
The first drug I ever tried was marijuana, and I was 12 years old.
It was marijuana, and I was 11 years old.
Yes, and that escalated to promethazine, lean.
I began to take pills like Xanax, Percocets.
I began using other substances such as pills and alcohol.
I then went on to cocaine and pills and quickly progressed to heroin. I was 13 years old when I first started using heroin. I had like aspirations of going to like an Ivy League school, and that quickly, within like a year or two, changed. I stopped going to my classes, I stopped going to school altogether eventually. All my friends were kind of just dropping me.
I started getting in trouble in school, eventually kicked out. I got in trouble with the law a lot.
I wasn't really hanging out with a lot of sober people, just people that use. I overdosed at 15. I've been at Outreach for 5 months. Outreach honestly really helps you. It shows that you're honestly worth something. And it's possible to become sober if you put in progress. But it's not just gonna be handed to you, you really have to want to change. Inpatient, you can't just leave. You stay here and you have to deal with it. That's what I feel like a lot of kids need.
In a long-term facility, the counselors get to know the resident better, and they get to actually work with them more than in a short-term 28-day facility. And it really gives kids a chance to work on themselves rather than being rushed through a program, just to be thrown back into life, going back into the same old bad habits that they were doing before.
Coming in here, I couldn't believe how long I would have to be here, but after a couple months, like, you know, talking to counselors, I kind of came to the realization that, like, I need a lot of time and work to repair everything I've done.
The things that we get taught here, you know, it really does help you in life, and it gives you a different perspective. It's very important for a kid to have a family involvement in treatment so they don't think they're alone in this. We communicate on a better basis than how we used to. We understand each other more. And that was from the help of outreach.
They come every Wednesday night for support group. They come to a group every other week.
They come to peer support group to discuss their problems also. My relationship honestly has got a lot better. Because I remember my mom used to never want to say anything to me because she would be scared of my reaction. I'm starting to realize in here, like, I really have to take advantage of the fact that I have her still.
When I was about 14 is when my parents realized that I had several different problems, such as behavioral issues, and the behavioral issues kind of stemmed from my drug use. I began caring less about myself and others. Outreach has really made me realize how important family is. If I was out of state in a program where my parents were not involved, I would have never been able to strengthen my relationship with them. My father told me that I've inspired him to make changes in his life, and that meant a lot to me. I've never heard my dad be inspired by something before, and I was just proud that it was me.
I'm sitting here with Jen and Kara from RIP LB. So, you know, there's coalitions. So you're not quite a coalition.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Yeah, we're working on becoming a nonprofit officially now.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was something that we gave, obviously we gave a lot of thought to it.
Did I owe you some information? Now that you just said that, I did, didn't I?
I'll follow up with you about
that. We have to get you some information how to do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
But yeah, we're working on that. We're also working with some people locally to make that happen. And, you know, people have been really supportive, which is wonderful.
A lot of people, whenever we've needed help with something, are very open to
so that's what makes, you know, communities change, right?
Absolutely.
Is your own community being bought in to, we need this here. You know, this is going to strengthen local businesses. You know, if a community is healthy, everybody benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. And people love Long Beach, so they do want to help. I mean, that was one of the most beautiful and inspiring things that I've ever seen, is like the reaction to RIP LB starting, because if it was just me and Kara, I mean, that would be great too. We love hanging out. But it was just a beautiful thing to see so many people who before that like might not have known each other come together and be like, hey, I want to be helpful, or this is something that I've been through and I want to help someone else go through it. And
what I think of, so when Long Beach is in a secluded, you know, when you're in Long Beach, you kind of want to stay in Long Beach.
Yeah, it's true.
Because it's a pain in the neck to get out of, to go and do other things elsewhere. So. Right? Yes. And that's not a bad thing, because you're on the ocean, it's beautiful, everything else. So strengthening your roots there. So when I think of Long Beach, you could think of the North Country, right? Upstate New York. You can think of rural places that need to hear what you did, because by strengthening your own community, you're changing, right?
Yeah, Jen's grinning because we were, you know, reflecting on everything, and we were talking about our focus, as much as it's Long Beach and Long Island, it's sort of giving a template of, you can do this in your community. And we're taking from things other people have done in their communities as well. So that's sort of our goal, is even though we're starting small, you know, it seems like that on paper, it's a template that anyone can do this. It doesn't matter where you are. The country is dealing with this everywhere. So you're not alone in it. But even if we're focusing on more particulars to Long Beach and Nassau County and Suffolk, there's something that you can take away from it. And we're hoping, you know, we think big also, and just like the teens and everything. But part of our hope is that by you know, we're going to continue building the website and continuing to have these things out there, that other people will see it and want to maybe talk and figure out, how do I bring this to my town? Yes. Like, what can I do? And that would be, you know, an amazing, beautiful,
and the partnerships that can come from that.
Right. Because
I have a question.
Yes,
veterans.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Long Beach is a huge.
Yes. So through doing this work with RIP LB, we met Keith Grant, who
we love Keith.
Yes, he's a veteran himself, correct? Yes, and he does a lot of work with veterans. And so one thing that we collaborated with him on was doing the hot chocolate relays, which again, funnily enough, involved running on the boardwalk, which is a very popular thing to do in Long Beach.
Running, walking, bicycling.
Yes, and he was connected with Team RWB. And they are just a fantastic organization, and they have a great local presence in in and around Long Beach. And so we've done some events with them, but we want to continue doing that.
Yeah. And part of, I mean, the goal with the winter runs was, you know, winter and the holidays, like it's an especially tough time and people are even more isolated because you're not outside as easily. And so it was just looking for ways, you know, once a month even though it was freezing in January, like let's get together and freeze together on the boardwalk and have some hot chocolate.
Go for a run.
Yeah. But you do the polar bear swim.
The polar bear is a very popular and somewhat controversial thing in Long Beach. But yeah, definitely. I mean, there's definitely ways to be social and get out there. And we were trying to add more healthy ones. Carrie's done it a bunch of times.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, Carrie's really great. She's great with that.
I mean, you lose your breath. You lose your breath, and you think I'm kind of insane for doing this in the moment, but it's it's super fun. It's for Make-A-Wish, so it's
a beautiful
it's got its roots in a great cause.
Yes, definitely.
So the holidays, from my perspective, again, it's kind of, I think this is the best way I can explain it now, is I'm in a prison that I never get paroled from, and that is so true for too many people.
Yes.
Who are sitting and, I don't get to wake up from my perpetual nightmare. But thankfully I have spirituality and faith that I know where Thomas is, and I know that this is our journey together in our walk. That doesn't eliminate my grief, because I will always grieve for my baby. It's always going to be my baby, and it's not natural that he's not here. But I think it's so important for people to get out of their own way, because you have to get out of your own way. There's a time to spend that time screaming, yelling, and I'll openly share, like Wednesday, preparing for Thanksgiving, cook, cry, yell. I want to wake up now, like, enough. But I just need to get that out. I need to give those feelings a voice and yell.
Because they're there.
Because they're there, and I have to acknowledge them. If I don't, I will implode.
I mean, I get chills when you speak, because I really do. I was just talking to my sister about this the other day, that I think it's so beautiful the way that you walk with Thomas through this journey, and that you are such a spiritual person, and you really, like you wrote that article, My Purpose Now. You're so clear on what your purpose is, and you've done your grief work, and I think that's incredible. And I want to say thank you for the work that you do, because it's really amazing. And like I said, I get chills when you talk and when you do this and how you help other people. So thank you for doing that.
It takes an incredible amount of strength to turn your grief and work with it that way.
It does, and it takes, I think it takes more knowledge of when not to do it. Because that's equally as important
as
when to do it.
Yeah,
self-care. Without self-care, and this goes for anybody, whatever you're dealing with, and that could just be life. If you don't take care of yourself, and I used to have a sign in my house, and it was a mama bunny with her baby bunnies. If the mama is not happy, no bunny is happy.
Oh, we love a pun.
That's awesome.
Right?
That's really
But
cute.
it was so true that I learned very early on, when I'm happy, healthy, I'm the best person that I can be. When I'm always giving without taking something for me, you become very resentful. And no one should ever go through life like that. So you can't get angry when you always say yes and then be resentful, because who are you resentful against? It has to be you. And that's kind of hard to acknowledge. I'm mad at me because I said yes. I didn't want to say yes. Well, then say no.
Right.
You don't owe anybody an explanation for saying no.
That's great. That's such a healthy way to think about it.
And you need to be, so we make ourselves crazy this time of the year because it's the appearance of families being so freaking happy, and they're really not.
Yeah, or perfect. And really, perfection is a myth. Like, that doesn't exist.
Oh my God, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Really, whatever your family looks like,
that's your family, and you love it.
And you love it, and just be with them. Christmas cooking doesn't have to be perfect. Presents don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, that's the most important thing, is that you're there.
Be the best person that you can be that moment in time.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think we go through the holidays with this, Norman Rockwell. This is going to be perfect. The day, the turkey, whatever it is. if it's McDonald's and you're all sitting, you know, on a blanket in the living room watching Elf, that works.
Yeah, Elf is a great movie.
It works for me.
Totally.
And when you don't have to cook or clean up, it's even better.
It is.
Having come off 3 days worth of cooking.
Yeah, but I mean, you bring up such a great point. And a couple years ago, we had a workshop with Dr. Jeff Reynolds, and he gave us 10 strategies that you can do now to help in the opioid crisis. And it was specifically geared around the holidays. And so we're going to be sharing that. Now that we have the website, we're going to make a post about it, include his strategies.
So what were some of his strategies?
So one of them was actually exactly what you were talking about, take care of yourself, you know? Another one was celebrate recovery. And then similar to that, but interestingly enough, like different enough to be its own strategy, was respect other people's recovery. Like, so if somebody's newly sober in your family or in your household, maybe don't have the wine out this year, you know, just be able to respect that in a way that makes the person not feel even more ashamed than they might already feel.
So actually, one time I heard Kim Laube say this. So Kim is in recovery for over 20 years, but she said, giving bringing wine as a house gift during the holidays, when you don't know what's on the other side of that door, could trigger something. And I said, wow, that I never thought of that impact. Never. Because I don't personally struggle with substance use disorder.
Right.
But I know what that means in a family. So I changed. I don't do that. Bring flowers. Bring food, bring cheese.
That's a great tip, yeah.
Bring nothing. Bring firewood if they have a fireplace.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Right? Bring, or bring, bring yourself.
You can get creative with it.
You can get creative with it. And then I have spoken at different treatment facilities, and they don't know who I am, maybe, and I'm speaking to the families, and they will be, I'm going to just use the word bitchin', because it's the best way about.
I know what you're saying.
Not, being told for their loved one not to have alcohol in the house. And people actually begrudgingly saying, I can't believe that, and I go, oh, that's so unfair that you can't enjoy what you want to enjoy. And I get people going that way, and then take out Tom Ashes and say, he doesn't ever get to enjoy anything. So really, what are you complaining about? Bam. Does that make sense to you now? But, that in and of itself opens up many conversations. Do I absolutely have to have liquor? Because then maybe I need to look at myself and my use and or abuse of a substance. Or, wow, I was being so self-centered and selfish. If your family can't come around or friends can't come around and have just soda or water or Dunkin' Donuts
coffee, hey,
what more do you need?
I like that everyone just looks right at you.
Then we need to have a different conversation, because we can't expect our little ones growing up in communities to know what it is to do things in a sober environment if we're not willing to show them that you can be equally as crazy and impulsive and have fun while being stone cold sober.
And I think that was Dr. Reynolds' point too, because it's not a judgment of families who do have alcohol in the house, and that's fine. And it depends on the person who's in recovery. They may be fine with it. It's like, it's not for us to say.
You need to personalize it,
right? And that was something he was throwing out there as like, hey, have fun sober, even if you're not someone who's in recovery. Like, see what that's like. Promote that,
Exactly.
Not saying, oh, everybody has to do something a certain way or this is the only right way, but just saying like, promote recovery.
Right.
Yeah.
Promote
having fun without drinking, kind of.
Exactly
thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
It is. It's tough for some people to hear. They're like, well, why would I do that? And maybe it's not for everybody, but that was just one of his strategies, and we thought that was great. So we'll definitely be resharing that.
Okay.
Because there's like at least 7 more. I think there was like around 10 or 12 strategies that he had. So we'll be resharing.
Very handy.
Jeff is.
He's amazing.
He's wonderful.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate on Long Island to have.
So fortunate.
To have Dr. Reynolds, but I think he brings so much to the table. But just to challenge you to think a little bit differently and think outside the box.
Absolutely.
So, you know, when we talk about little ones in the house, again, if we're going to talk about changing, actual making community changes 10 years from now, if we don't start with the 5-year-olds, how are we ever going to change that?
That's a great point.
So if every day I come home, and little ones, you are their everything at that point in time. And if I come home every day and say, it's such a bad day, I'm going to have a glass of wine, I'm going to have a beer, I'm going to have a drink, that why are we surprised that the average onset for a boy is 11 years old and for a girl is 13? Because if this is all I've known, and you're surprised when they come home and say, I had a bad day in 5th grade, I'm going to have a beer. Because that's what my mom and dad, my heroes, do.
And I don't want to make it sound like it's not to say that anything is someone's fault or responsibility that they do that,
criticism,
not in that
no
kind
judgment.
of way. It's just kind of these small shifts to the culture.
Just look at who you're impacting.
Yeah, and that goes with also caring for your community. If your children see you going out and making an effort to be kind to your neighbors, or if you're volunteering a little of your time, and that's the model that they grow up with, it's very natural to them to be concerned and care about their community when they get older too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love, like, some parents say, well, you know, the holidays are coming, so gather up, you know, 3 of your favorite toys, and we're going to give those away.
That's amazing.
That's amazing, because now you're already teaching a little self-sacrifice and a little, you know, oh wow, if I love this so much, that little person that doesn't have this is going to love this so much.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And children are very receptive to that idea. Like, they love that when you present it to them.
They love to make other people happy. They never want to disappoint, right? The big people in their lives.
Yeah.
So that's why, you know, doing all of this and being you never know who's watching you or listening to you. In a good way and a bad way, right?
Definitely.
So what else are you going to do on this? Because you guys are, like, amazing with what you do. No, you really are.
Thanks.
So if anybody wants to write in really to the Thomas's Hope Facebook page, or go right to RipLB.
RipLB.com, yes.
And post what you'd like to see.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely we're open to having all sorts of voices on the blog. So if people are interested in writing a post or an article, we definitely
we can help brainstorm with them if they're not.
Oh my gosh,
sure
I love coming up with topics for people.
A good topic
it's
generator.
like a newfound fun hobby of mine. Like, I love making up topics for people. It's a little weird, but but so we're happy to.
But that's how your mind works.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something I like. So if somebody's interested in writing and they don't know what they want to write about, or they feel like, oh, you know, I had this really great experience and I want to share about it, but I'm not sure how. Like, we're definitely down to, like, help people collaborate, talk through that. Because we do want to get all types of voices out there, because it's just great for other people to read what's going on in other people's lives.
And just see that they're not the only one who has that thought or that concern.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So if you've done something in your community that really shifted your community, write about it.
Yeah.
And share it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be long.
No.
There's no pressure.
No pressure, I know. Yeah. So I did write for you guys.
We wrote an amazing one.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it can be a little intimidating to try to write something.
Well, we've also been doing some interviews with people, which have been exciting. So if people don't want to write, I mean, I'd love to interview you, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
But okay, cool. But yeah, sometimes we do that because if people are like, oh, I'm not a big writer, oh, I just don't think I have the time to do that, it's easier for me to talk, you know, then we'd like to do that as well. So if people are interested in that, you know, it's just great to get community voices out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, because, you know, Northport, East Northport has this very strong substance use community going on. So I think that they could be a great voice to share all of these things to bring something different to you guys. And someone's going to take something from your space. You know, it's not about, you know, if you put 3 people together like we are today, right? If we each had a great idea but we never shared it, we only end up with one idea.
Yeah.
But now I could leave with 3 ideas. You could leave with 3 ideas. You know, everybody is leaving with more information that they walked in the door from.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. And it's like Kara said before about like what we're creating, like other people can borrow from that, take what works for them. And the same thing, we do the same thing with other people. You know, like we said, we learn a lot. We consider Kim Laube and you to be 2 of our mentors because we learned so much from what you've been doing for all these years. And so,
and I'm just crazy enough to just, I just go through.
And Anthony all the time. We're
bothering Anthony. Oh yes, definitely. He's incredible. So definitely it's all about like collaborating, not recreating the wheel, and like taking from what other people have already done and making it successful somewhere else too, you know?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if someone, would you help? So who did your website? Let's start with that.
Because Jen is so talented.
Because I know Jen is talented. She also has a very talented husband.
Oh, he's amazing.
Yes.
But I actually did the website using Wix, Wix.com. Not that this is I'm in no way affiliated with them. I mean, I use all their products. I love them. But Wix.com, anybody can make a website. You sign up for, you can sign up for free. And if you want, the website can be hosted for free. It just has their ads on it.
Okay.
But, you know, or you could pay like a certain amount. It's not very expensive. And then you take the ads off. But basically, I made it using Wix. And it was...
So this
really
is
fun.
You know, this is so people sitting at home. How do I could never do this. I can't afford $2,500 to have a website.
Oh gosh,
it was whatever it is. Right.
No, I think we hosted it for a year for like $80 because we got it on sale.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
And I do have to give a shout out to my husband because he is extremely knowledgeable in the tech world. And so he taught me about like buying a domain name and all that kind of stuff. And we're happy to share that information too. You know, if somebody's looking to start up something, like
we live in a great time. It's very easy to do these things.
It's so easy to do this stuff. And we're happy to share. Maybe we'll write a blog about like tips for starting
I think that's a great blog to write.
Yeah.
Because if I'm sitting in wherever, you know, Oakdale, and I don't have anything going on there and I want to do something.
Absolutely.
Or I'm sitting in Minnesota and it's, you know, 16 feet of snow outside.
Yeah.
This could warm your winter nights.
All you need is Wi-Fi.
And there's no rules for anything. Like when I say no pressure, like, you know, we're just sort of making it up as we go and like, oh, let's put this on the site. Let's have this. Like,
well, yeah, I think we have certain backgrounds and we've learned a lot along the way that we're putting to use.
It doesn't need to be perfect.
But it doesn't have to be perfect. And we are learning as we go. And it is like anybody can do it. You know, you just have to want to put something out there. And I think it's all about intention too. Like if your intention is to be helpful to other people, like you're going to do it.
You're going to do it.
Yeah, one way or the other.
Right. And if something is up there that does offend someone, hopefully somebody would contact you and say, that hurt me.
That's a great moment, though, also to have that conversation.
Absolutely.
Because there's things that I think we're all coming from different walks of life. And I might say something because I don't realize how that impacts you. And then it makes me stop and think. Like we've had events where I didn't even realize someone was offended, not by me, but by something else that had happened. And it's like, oh, I like get it completely now that I heard it from you. But if I hadn't heard it, it would never, you know, it's really taught me how to shape how I speak about things or think about things in a good way, in a positive way.
I think using those as like teachable moments has been really important because people usually aren't out there looking to be offensive or hurt someone. You know, it's usually a teachable moment. So we try to keep that in mind. And again, going back to that thing, I think you can really say anything as long as you say it with kindness, honesty, and integrity. And I
love that.
Yeah, it's a good one. But we're looking to like keep that kind of vibe on our site. And so it's funny, at my job, at my full-time job at Health Union, I am kind of in charge of moderating the online conversation. And so that's something that's very important to us with riplb.com as well, is that we're going to be very present moderating conversation. And it's already started, you know, people putting comments on the blogs, and it's all positive so far. But of course, something, you know, somebody may have to say.
Because it's interesting, back in, it was 2014, that's probably, you know, our trips up to Albany that year that we changed legislation. But I wrote an op-ed for Newsday, and it ended up to be the whole middle section. I was shocked, but that's like, for me, that's like a God moment. Like that was meant to be there. And it took everything that I was, and I had to really talk myself into reading the comments. Because I knew instinctively that they were going to be very bad comments. And I had to mentally prepare myself for that. And I read them because I needed to know the level of ignorance that's out there in the world.
Wow.
Well, good. He should be dead.
Oh, gosh.
You know, things like really bad things
Yeah.
that people would say.
Yeah.
And that does. I don't want to ever believe that anybody's that bad that they would say something like that.
Right.
I think that they're just really ignorant.
Or it comes from a place of defensiveness, right?
Yeah.
So when usually when you're doing something like that, it's because you see something in yourself and you're afraid of it or scared, you know, and it freaks you out. And instead of acknowledging that and reflecting on it, it's ignorant in a different way, right? It's just like, I'll just deny what's going on in here and put it on you instead. Because it's easier for me to write a nasty comment to you than to accept like, oh, maybe I'm struggling with this, or this is happening in my family right now. Yeah.
But I think in the United States, certainly here, you know, there's still so much shame and stigma, and people still feel that it's a moral failing, not a brain disease.
Right.
So that's my focus too, you know, because I lived that moment too, not knowing with my own son. Please, this time, let's, you know, really do, not knowing, because I wasn't educated on the disease. So the disease is so important to have all your information and to have it constantly be a learning process. Because if your child or your loved one had diabetes or cancer or something like that, you would empower yourself with information and you would be up on every new technique to make your loved one feel better and to succeed in dealing and managing their disease.
But that's what's so tough about it, because you can't physically see it, right?
Yeah.
And with mental health issues the same way, because it's harder to identify, and it seems like, well, you clearly have, you know, your own agency when you're doing these things, and it's like, it's bigger than that. And that's part of having voices and having you share your story on our website and other people. It helps because then it makes it relatable. You know, so my background's in documentaries, and a lot of what we do on different issues is putting human faces to these stories, whatever the stereotype is that you think of someone, they're a mooch because they're unemployed. In this case, you know, you deserve it because you're an addict and you made those choices. And until you see those stories of, that could be anybody that you know, that could be you.
Exactly.
How could you know it until you live it? And that's why it's really important to be able to have these conversations, but also for us to make it in a way that it's okay to come with a little bit of ignorance if you're open to hearing about it and to civilly discuss
and to learning.
And to learning.
And that it's a judgment-free zone where people can learn, because we're not going to attack someone if they think differently than we think, or like, oh, you really shouldn't think that, or blah, blah, blah. It's really more of like an opportunity, like I said, a teachable moment.
Tell me why you feel that way.
And I think that was a big reason why your workshop with Anthony in Long Beach was such a hit, is because it was really like a very open conversation where people could ask questions coming from a background of like, oh, maybe I have this particular opinion, but I'm still able to ask a question and get the information that I need. And I thought that was great, because it really, that's how you have like a conversation where people get to learn, you know?
Yes.
It's like judgment-free, a safe place to do that, and the real information and facts coming from you and Anthony. I thought that was
so
great.
here's the article for you that I would love to do is why not your child?
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Because still to this day, I can speak Thomas's story, and certainly he didn't wake up. Nobody wakes up and says, I think I'll be addicted to heroin.
Yeah.
Of course not.
No one.
Nope.
So when parents will still say, oh, I'm okay, we're only drinking and smoking pot. Well, why not? Why do you think your child's not going to move on?
Go there.
That sounds like a powerful article for sure.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for having us, Linda.
Thank you for joining us this week for Resolutions for Recovery. Have a great rest of the Thanksgiving weekend. Shop till you drop. That's another article.